Namaste everyone, welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita, offered from an Advaita perspective by Binduji. We are on chapter 5, room number 9, and the schedule now is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 a.m. IST. So the previous rooms, the replays are available. You can access them in Clubhouse. You go to the house, or you can go to the channels shared in the chat. One is a YouTube channel called Advaita Retold. The second one is on Apple, from Apple Podcast, and the third one is Spotify. So in all these links, you can access the replays and catch up on the previous sessions. There is also a book which has a deep insights into Advaita offered by Binduji, which was penned by Artemisia and published as a book called The Imaginary Door, available on Amazon, and that's a good reading companion. So for housekeeping, we'll have the chat and hand raising closed when Binduji is offering the class, after which we will open up the channels for Q&A. As always, thank you, Binduji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Atmisha. And Namaste and Hari Om to all of you. Invocations. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purana Malayam Garunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Loga Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyaptadehaaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarudaha Studnvandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramo Upanishadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Sarva karmani manasa sanyasya Aste sukam vashi Navadvara pure dehi Na eva kurvanna karaya. Verse number 13 was what we discussed in the yesterday's class, where the karma yogi, after having renounced sarva karmani, all the actions, not necessarily the Vedic actions or, some restricted actions, but all actions. When he sannyasya, when he renounces it, he aste sukam vashi. He abides in the happiness which is identifiable with his own surupa. Navadvara pure dehi na eva kurvanna karayan. He abides in that body, physical human body. Na eva kurvanna karayan. Neither he is doing anything nor he is causing anything to happen, anything to be done as of the karmas are concerned. Expanding on the same thing, the next verse, Krishna says, Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Prabhu, the master of the city, of the body, the Navadvarapure, which was discussed yesterday. Lokasya na kartrutvam na karmani na karma phala samyogam. There are three negations. Lokasya means of the beings in the world, which appears to have been created. Na kartrutvam, the doership or proprietorship. Na karmani, I know the activities. And na karma phala samyogam, nor the connection between the actions and their results. Srujati means creates. So he is not creating the doership, nor the karmani, nor the actions, and nor the connection between the action and the results. If he is not doing, then how does it happen? Tu, but swabhavaha pravartade. It is the act of the prakriti or the swabhava. There is a triple cosmic negation which Atman creates none of these mechanism of bondage. What is the mechanism of the bondage? Kartrutvam, karmani, and karma phala samyoga. These are the three. When he is not creating any one of them, there can this contrastive affirmation which is required as his swabhavastu pravartade. That is the implicit conclusion that Atman is eternally free. The bondage is entirely the nature or the domain of the swabhava. It operates at the paramarthika level, which was established in the previous verse. Dehi, the one who is in that 9-gated city of the body. It's non-doership into cosmic metaphysical declaration that the nature of the Prabhu or the Dehi or the self or the Lord is now free from any doership. And that apparent actions, ownership or proprietorship and the connection between the action and the result is due to the operation of the Prakriti, nature. In this verse, the word used is swabhava. Swaha, bhavaha, swabhavaha. One's own nature. One's own nature means not Atman's nature, but the nature of the body. So when we look at this, the identity of Prabhu, what is he in the role? The Dehi, in the Deha. At the Paramatma level, Ishvara level, or as Paramatman or Ishvara, even they are identifying. Some commentators are identifying the Prabhu as Paramatman or Ishvara, the cosmic Lord. And they say that God does not create Kartrutva. They arise independently from the Maya or the Shakti of Paramatma or Ishvara. Shankara's primary reading is the Jivatman or Dehi or the embodied self, Atma, is the king in the body and does not create Kartrutva in the persons of the world. Lokasya. But when there is a secondary reading of Shankara's commentary, where both are included from the form of the standpoint of Atman, which is Brahman, also from the Ishvara point of view, who is a creator of the whole world. So in the secondary teaching, it applies to both Jiva and Ishvara. And the level is Atman is equal to Brahman in Advaita. So there is a bit of confusion which can arise if you read the commentaries. Atman as a sovereign Lord or Prabhu, Master, continues the performing in the body. Dehi, Deha, in the body as the indweller of the Deha. But at the same time, he has no connection with the activities of the city, what is happening. Na kurvanna karayen aste sukham vashi. That the same Prabhu, being present in the body, does not create the kartrutva, the doership, karmani, the actions, and the connection between the karma and the phala in the people, lokasya. Therefore, the word Prabhu confirming the continuity of the subject in the two verses of the previous verse and this verse as the Dehi, and here it is used as Prabhu. Both are the same, and is indicating the word Atman as the one who is abiding in the body. And for him, there is no kartrutva, doership. Even though the word Srijati is becoming that he is the one who is creating, that he is not creating will be proved. The doership or the kartrutva means the very category of doership, the structure of agency itself as an abstract quality. This verb says that Prabhu or the Dehi or the indweller in this body does not create kartrutva. Not merely that he does not create the individual doers, but that he does not create the very principle of doership. This is a bit confusing when we look into it. Kartrutva is a superimposed quality due to the adhyasa by which the Atman appears to be the karta or the doer. It is this false attribution of the agency of the Atman which is being confused as the karta. But in Atman's own nature is akarta. He is not a non-doer. Therefore, when he is not a non-doer, he does not have the kartrutva also. Kartrutva means doership. From the point of view of Atman, this does not generate the superimposition itself. Kartrutva or the doership arises from avidya by identification with the body. That I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect or the complex body-mind complex. When that identification, adhyasa, takes place, he feels that I am doing, therefore I have a doership. But Krishna says is nor the doer nor causing the doership. But then why is it arising? Swabhavastu pravartade. That swabhava is the avidya, which is being now seen as the doership. If we look at the previous verses which we have studied, Krishna had said earlier that gunas are the reason why the sense organs and the sense objects are interacting. That is their nature. Gunas. That is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, or the Prakriti. It is their nature to be interacting. A light in the nature as an object, and the vision as an indriya or the eyes are interacting naturally. There is no forced that, implementation that eyes are not willing to do it and it is being forced to do it. Same way with the ears or touch or smell or taste or anything like that. The interaction between the objects of corresponding sense organs and their interactions are natural. But what happens is that when we identify ourselves as the body, the adhyasa, when it is happening, even though these activities are happening as a swabhava or a natural happening, the ownership or the kartrutva is assumed by the individual when he thinks that he is the body and the sense organs are his and he is interacting in the world using the sense organs. What Krishna says in the previous verse is that guna guneshu vartande. These gunas or the prakriti gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas and the indriyas, they are all gunas, product of gunas, because they are all prakriti. The purusha or the prabhu or the dehin is mere witness. But when the witness identifies with the body, he assumes the doer, karta. The kartrutva arises from the avidya swabhava, not from the Atman's own creative act. If Atman creates kartrutva, then the Atman would itself have to be a karta who create the kartrutva. The doership is also a creation. When assuming the role that I am the doer. This contradicts the teaching of akartrutva, which Krishna has said that Viddhi akartaram avyayam. When he has said that no me means the self in all of us. Krishna cuts this circularity of doership by the Atman creating nothing, not even its own apparent kartrutva, when he says that swabhavastu pravartade. It is the nature in which it is happening. Similarly, na karmani, actions are self-produced by the system of prakriti. the gunas operating upon guna, guneshu vartante, without the Atman initiating, directing or participating in their production. Of whom? Lokasya. The Prabhu does not create kartrutva and karmani for the world. For the world means for the beings in the creation. This is not merely about the Prabhu's own non-doership, which was established in the previous verse, but about the cosmic metaphysical fact that Atman is not the source of others' apparent doership either. Atman is present in everything. That was proved in the earlier way. Navadware pure dehi, and he is residing in all the dehas. So not only my actions, the actions of others onto me or in the society or in the world, all these things we have to see from the same yardstick, that Atman or Brahman in every creation is present, yet do not cause activity or doership or the relationship between the fruits of action and the action. It's very difficult for us to understand this because we have still not been able to understand the adhyasa aspect of it. If the universal Atman is the ground of all, is it not the creator of kartrutva for everyone? Because everything seems to be in action. Na kaschit kshanam abhi yadu tishtatya karma krita. Krishna himself has said that. Even for an iota of a second, you cannot be remaining without doing anything. So the question of the creator of kartrutva by Atma, is it not valid? The answer is no. Neither for itself nor for the loka does the Dehi or the Prabhu create kartrutva. The kartrutva of the loka arises from the swabhava, from the prakriti's autonomous operation, not from the Dehin or Atman's creative agency. A bit difficult for understanding this is because we have studied earlier in our Upanishadic and everything that there is only Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. There is no two different things. Then why is Krishna saying that the Atman is not creating anything? It is created by the Prakriti. Is not Prakriti creation, is not Brahman? The answer comes in the following verses, which we'll be taking up later. Why does it appear to be happening? Or why does the Prakriti and creations taking place? So the word Srijati, na Srijati, does not create. Srijati means create. So this cosmogenic verb, which is in the philosophical aspect of the Sanskrit language, is used in the Upanishads also. By the Taittiriya Upanishad, we learned that sa kamayata tat vai idam srijat bohusyam prajayeti, etc. Its use here is deliberately chosen by Krishna to use the word srijati to make very deep understanding in us that the Atman does not perform even the most fundamental creative act of srijana, creation. Not only with respect to kartrutva, karmani and karma phala samyoga, even lokas, others. That is why Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma is right. Because even the Prakriti and the creation of the Prakriti, we will have to understand how the creation or how the empirical world is appearing. So the Nasvijati has to be understood as not only doership, not only actions, not only the union between the action and the fruit. But it is the Swabhava. Now the word Swabhava is a pivotal term in this verse which needs subsequent explanation by Krishna in the verses coming to or coming which are appearing to. If the Prabhu creates none of this, then who does? To answer that, Krishna says Swabhava, the nature or the Prakriti, the inherent self-operating principle of empirical phenomenal existence. So what is the Swabhava here? This word is the most important word in this whole verse. At the individual level, each being's own inherent guna constitution is the Swabhava of the individual. When we are in the clutches of the ego individuality, there is a constitution of guna in us, each one of us. And difference between individual to individual, we have seen that it is the individual nature which is driven from the vasanas or the inherent tendencies, which are predominantly operating at the mind intellect level, with which we identify as an individual. Because I identify with my mind and intellect, and the quality of my mind and intellect is the Swabhava of mind. If I am able to understand and behave in a certain fashion, it is due to the nature of my mind and my intellect. Because I am identifying with my mind and intellect. At the individual level, when this identification is taking, the sum total of the cosmic level, the same vasana of the mind and intellect becomes the Trigunatmika Prakriti, the cosmic Prakriti, the primordial creative principle operating through the three gunas of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And we know that we have learned the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the qualities embedded in the Prakriti, and then Prakriti is creating its own individualized objects and individuals, etc., from the power of the Prakriti. Mostly this philosophy is used by the Sankhya system, who use that Purusha is separate and Prakriti is separate. But in the Advaitic level, Shankaracharya uses, instead of Prakriti, he says it is a Maya Shakti. The power of apparent creation. In reality, there is no creation because Advaita cannot accept two things. Therefore, it is an apparent creation that operates from Maya Shakti or Avidya Shakti, producing the appearance of Kartrutva, Karmani, Samyoga, etc. without any real creation, another separate from Atman. So Shankaracharya explained the Swabhava, the Avidya-rooted Prakriti that autonomously, apparently creates or generates the Kartrutva, Karmani and Phalasam Yoga. And this is without Atma's participation. The entire mechanism of samsara is self-running, swata pravartamana, from the ambit of Prakriti, which is the name Swabhava here in this verse. And Atman stands as an eternal witness of this self-running process. Now to make this understand, how can we understand this aspect of avidya or Maya Shakti, able to do this creation and make us feel that we are limited individuals and separated from each other, is similar to, in the space, things are appearing and they seems to be having independent existence. This independent existence, what we observe of objects in the world, is when we forget or when we call it as avidya or non-apprehension, or we do not give the right knowledge that the space in which everything appears as independent and separate existence has a dependency or need of the space for the very existence and appearance. It doesn't mean that things are not there. The things are in the space, using space, and without space, none of the things can independently exist. At the same time, we technically and intellectually know the requirement of the space for the objects to exist. That doesn't negate our experience of objects and multiplicity in the space. While all these things are happening, the space as such is untouched, unconditioned, unaltered, or without undergoing any modification, remains as it is, as a witness or untouched by the creations that are happening inside it. The Sat and Chit, the consciousness and existence, in which the space is also an object, because it's an object for cognition or object of awareness. When we can understand that consciousness and existence are not two separate things and one and only one, in which the space appears, and in space subsequent things are appearing, the fundamental existence consciousness, which is Sat and Chit, does not even undergo anything, any changes. It is a mere, not even a witness, in the sense that the witness will feel separatedness from what is being witnessed. But when it is happening within ourselves, we cannot say that we are a witness even for that. That knowledge, when it is not present within us, when we are not having the vidya of our true nature, that we are Satchit Ananda, then the creation, the space, everything will appear as if it is being created. To identify ourselves as Sat and Chit, or to know that we are Sat and Chit, is the purpose which will release us from the identification of the creation and the created individuality. The Upanishad said, Tasmat etasmat atmana akasha sambhutaha. From that Brahman or Atman, the space was born. The space was not born, sambhudaha. It is not bhutaha, sambhudaha, which we discussed in Taittiriya when we discussed it in detail. It did not become or separately from the Atman or Brahman. Ajayamano bahuda vijayate. Without becoming separate, it appeared as separate. But as long as we identify with our mind and intellect and start operating through the mind and intellect to evaluate the condition of our Swarupa of Atma, Sat and Chit, we will not be able to. Because there is a limitation for the body, mind and intellect to know the reality while remaining in the identification of the ignorant creation, the avidya created body, mind, intellect. That is why in the Brihadaranya Upanishad it says, Vitnyatara mare kena vijaniyat. How the knower can ever know the knower. Because there will be a circular or infinite redundum which will happen. So at the same time, is it unknown? The Shastra says it is not unknown. The knowing, that the feeling that that there is an existence of me, the amness, before we identify with our body, mind, intellect, is the knowing of that aspect. But that amness, the moment it identifies with the waker or the dreamer, it assumes the waker or the dreamer. Before identifying with the waker or the dreamer, the amness has nothing to know that is in the deep sleep. Therefore, the amness is there. At the same time, it cannot be known as something. That is why we say, I know nothing. But when the swabhava of or the nature of the consciousness, when it projects itself as a waker or as a dreamer, this amness is still a witness for the waking and for the dream. But the identified waker feels with the waking creation and the waking individuality. Therefore, there is a subject and the empirical world for the object. Same is the case, the empirical dreamer and the empirical world of dream. But if we are not analyzing our experience as a waker, but from the pure amness without identifying with either waking, dream or deep sleep, that is our pure true nature. Tebhyo vilakshana sakshi chinmatroham sadashivam. This is not possible for us when we are identifying with the waking or in the dream. Dream, we don't have the intellect. We are only mental cognition and everything is there. Therefore, no logic, no analysis or nothing can be done. No learning or anything. It is a pure experiential world. So let us not consider the dream as a place for us to solve the problems. The problem is the kartrutva, karma, karmani and karma phala samyoga is predominantly affecting us and creating a feeling that we are having punya and papa, that effect of good actions and bad actions, and then the cycle of birth and death, everything is felt in the waking. Therefore, in the waking, this adhyasa which is happening to us, that I am the waker Bindo, who is now talking and teaching all those things. When I have that feeling or when I'm experiencing that, I cannot know myself as Atma or Brahman. I cannot know. But the same time, just as we feel that I am a human being, even though we feel that we are a human being and behave as if we are human beings with all the sense, mind, intellect, body and the sense organs, we don't have to remember we are a human being. We are abiding as a human being and behaving. Now that abidance as a human being, when we do the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana and get convinced that we are not the human being, but we are the conscious entity which is called the Atma or Brahman. Name doesn't matter, whether we call it as super consciousness or universal consciousness or Satchidananda, Atma, Brahma. Any name, nomenclature can come into the picture, but none of the nomenclature are really explaining the nature of that consciousness awareness. But when we abide in that, the switch from the humanness to the consciousness, if it had happened, and that is where we are abiding, then neither the waking, nor the dream, nor the deep sleep, and the effects of waker, dream, and deep sleep will be touching us or affecting us. And that is what is called the freedom, or the mukti, or the liberation, or the emancipation, or realization. Different names are used for explaining that. It is not that it's not possible for us to abide in the self or in the consciousness. The doubts which we entertain, is it possible for me to do that? That has to go. That ajnana samshaya viparya, which are happening in the process of Sarvana Manana Nididhyasana, when that is broken, vidyate hridaya grandhi, siddhyante sarva samshayaha, Chiyande chasya karmani, tasmin drishte paravare. This is the mantra which is in the Chandogya Upanishad which we studied. That's hridaya grandhi, the knot in the heart which is making us abide as a humanness. I am the human being. That has to be broken. How will it happen? Siddhyante sarva samshayaha. When all doubts and wrong notions, incomprehension, basically the avidya, the ignorance and the adhyasa, when it is siddhyante, when it is uprooted or removed, cut from the root, that time, what happens in this, chiyande chasya karmani. So all these activities which otherwise the body, humanness, was entertaining as I am the embodied self and I am acting in this world of empirical self using my sense organs, all those things will be diminished, chiyande. That is the time when tasmin drishte, tasmin means tasmin samaye, that time paravare, you are the infinite self. There is nothing other than yourself. This is why the swabhava of the adhyasa or avidya, all three words are similar. Prakriti, swabhava, adhyasa, avidya. It is this which is being, in which it is working. Bhavastu pravartate. Pravartate means operate. The nature operates from this autonomous forward movement. It is a form in a reflex manner in which it is operating, with its own internal logic. It's a self-running, self-sustaining, self-generating process due to the adhyasa or avidya, swabhava or prakriti. The entire phenomenal world of action and consequences from within its own guna dynamics. The guna is also a creation of that avidya. So there is a two contrast. Prabhu Srijati is negated. Atma is doing nothing. Swabhavastu pravartate. The Swabhava is working. Prabhu does not create. It is a passive witness called Atman, and it is no way connected with the Prakriti. Therefore, it is Akarta and the king or the Prabhu abiding in the consciousness. Whereas the Swabhava pravartate, when the Swabhava operates, it becomes an active operating principle. And that active operating principle is the phenomenal principle called Maya or Prakriti or Swabhava. In that, the Vyavaharika Karta, Karmani, Karma Phala Samyoga, all these will function. So the bondage of the human being is basically the three prerequisites produced by Swabhava, not of Atman. Atman is strategically, ontologically, eternally free, Nitya Mukta. And what is called moksha is the recognition that this eternal freedom is my nature, not the kartrutva, bhoktartva or the karmani. This is the eternal freedom. And it is not a produce or a production or a result of an action with which we realize it. Even though the word realization may apparently be a after effect of something, in reality there is no after effect to that. Shankaracharya gives three levels of analysis. Swabhavastu pravartate. It is a multi-layered recognition. At the individual level, avidya vasana. At the jiva level, Swabhava is the accumulated vasana structure of each creation. The latent impressions, samskaras, built up through the past actions that constitute each one's individual nature and drive the future actions. This is the Swabhava as a karmic character in the guna constitution of the individual antakarana. At the cosmic level, empirical level, prakriti. At the cosmic level, Swabhava is prakriti, it's called prakriti. The primordial creative principle, as per the Sankhya system, operating through the sattva, rajas, tamas. This prakriti autonomously generates kartrutva through ahankara and karmani through manas, indriya, kaya, that is kayena vachena manasa, and karma phala samyoga through the karma niyama, that for every action there is a consequence. All as internal operations on its own dynamics of the gunas of sattva, rajas, tamas. But when we come to the Advaitic level or the Maya level, level 3, the same Prakriti we call it as Avidya, as Maya Shakti. And there is only one Paramarthikam. But what is the experiences? It is the Swabhava of the power of Avidya. The beginningless Anadi, self-wheeling Anadi Avidya. That superimposes the entire appearance of Kartrutva, Karmani, Samyoga and superimposes it on Atman. The Maya operates pravartate, but reality Atman is witnessing. The entire creation of samsara is avidya or Maya's autonomous production and not of Atman. who is mere witness of it. At this deepest level, Swabhavastu Pravartade is Maya Pravartade, the self-operating power of cosmic illusion, which generates the entire phenomenal world of apparent agency, which is action, karmic nexus. And the Atman or the Prabhu or the Dehi stands as eternal, uninvolved, self-luminous witness of this wonderful spectacle of self-running nature of the empirical world. The empirical world is a spectacle created by this ignorance, avidya or maya, where we get deluded. In the next verse, Krishna will say, Tena muhyanti jandavaha. Gets deluded by the spectacle of the ignorance which is playing into us. So the only way we can do that is by resolving the karma bandha problem. The complete Advaitic resolution for karma bandha cosmic bond problem is that this one. If the jiva acts as a karma or a karta, and the action are produced as karma phala, and this connection, samyoga between the karta and the karma phala, is the one which perpetuates the samsara. And how can the jiva be ever free? The solutions are given in 3 steps. Relocate the kartrutva. Take the kartrutva from the individual. Jiva is not the karta. Kartrutva is produced by the ignorance or the swabhava, by creating the ahankara, that karta, apparent karta, which is by the ignorance or avidya. Not only we should relocate the karta, kartrutva, we should relocate the karmani also. The actions are not in Atman or the Dehi or the Prabhu. They are produced by the body-mind complex, kayena vacha manasa indriya, through the swabhava of the ignorance, autonomous operation. So relocate this swabhava not in the individual, but that of the ahankara of the body-mind complex. We need also to relocate the karma phala samyoga, the causal nexus binding the action to the result. It is not established by Atman. Atman is not doing anything for it. That is an internal law of Prakriti. It is the swabhava or the spectacle of the ignorance or maya, governed by operations of karma niyama. So the conclusion is Atma never entered into any bondage of kartrutva, karmani or karma phala samyoga. All are products of swabhava, avidya, prakriti. They exist within Prakriti's own domain, and Atman stands eternally outside this domain as a pure witness, Prabhu. This is the Paramarthika solution for bondage samsara. And to know that it was never real from the Atma's point of view, it was always Swabhava, self-created appearance, and the moksha of is the recognition that na kartrutvam, na karmani, na karma phala. Prabhu, I am the Atman, the Prabhu, never created any of these things. They are mere appearances. This world has got the Vivartavada in it. The Vivartavada principle is that Brahman Atman is unchanged by the apparent creation. The world appears without Brahman actually transforming. Bondage is an appearance, or Vivarta. Vivarta means appearance. Not a real transformation, Parinama. Recognition by the Jiva is the Jnana which dissolves this Vivarta or this appearance. So in this verse, Prabhu na srijati gives that the Atman is unchanged. The creation is nothing. There is no creation. Atman remains unchanged. The world appears without Brahman actually transforming is what is mentioned here as Swabhavastu Pravartade. The Maya operates or producing the appearance. The bondage is an appearance, Vivarta, not a real transformation, Parinama, is given by the words Kartva Karmani Samyoga Swabhava Vivarta, not Atman's Parinama. And that when Swabhava is seen as Swabhava, not as that of Atman's behavior, the Vivarta or the appearance is recognized and the individual is moksha, liberated. So, when we are witnessing Prabhu and Atman, we become pure drashta or sakshi. When Swabhava is operating, it is happening in the field of the witness, not the witness in witness. So Kartrutva, Karmani, Samyoga, they're all created by the part of the drishya, of the world of empirical world. So the metaphysical summit of the Akartrutva Prakarana, which is ending with this verse, the definitive doctrinal statement that Atma or Prabhu or Dehi is our sovereign non-creator and the self, Atman. Akartrutva, karmani and karma phala samyoga are all entire mechanism or apparent bondage of samsara chakra. And this, when we know, is swabhavastu pravartate, but operates as a swabhava, we are freeing ourselves or we are getting liberated. The sovereign who was never bound because he never acted, because he never created the chain of samsara, and he is always eternally free. This is that there is only 3 statements in the Bhashya which I am not going to read. I have covered all those things in the explanation. The next verse is Paramarthastu. In reality, Nadatte kasyachit pavam na chaiva sukrutam vibhu. Atnyen avrutam jnanam tena muhyanti jandavaha. This is that the all-pervading one does not receive anyone's sin or indeed is anyone's merit. The knowledge is, or the jnana is veiled by the ignorance, by the avidya. By that, beings are deluded, the creation, the individuals are deluded. We will take this 15th verse on next Tuesday. Till then, please do the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana and reduce the Ajnana Samshaya Vivadya. Thereby, we can identify ourselves as the Prabhu. Identifying as a human being should stop. We are not the human being. We are appearing as human being. We are the Atma Nitya Mukta Shuddha Swabhava. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Binduji. I've opened the chat and hand raising if there are any follow-up questions.
I just wanted to say that this reminds me a lot of the discussions that were had several years ago when you weren't teaching. Especially I'm thinking of people who are listening right now, of Venkat and Srini, when we had a lot of discussions about Idyasa and what does it mean if something's an appearance, and what does it mean to think it's an actual creation. And there's a lot of similar things, and I feel like the way you're doing these teachings right now, it gives a lot of room to talk about really fundamental things rather than focusing on exactly what a specific Upanishad might be saying, since, as you said, each Upanishad was the reflection of a specific individual or rishi, and they don't even necessarily align literally. But I was just really appreciating that, and I'm going to go, but I wanted to thank everybody. And I told Bindo this the other day, but it's kind of nice. I'm kind of liking this very specific small group that is showing up the last week or two. It's like we're very lucky to be sharing this space so intimately, and not in the context of some formal organization or paid retreat or anything, you know. It's really beautiful. Thank you, Bindo.
Thank you, Atmishi. Since there are no more, Venkat is coming. Namaste, Venkat.
I think this is the great continuity from yesterday to today. It gives more clarity. The complete, that the kartutva, karma, all that is now nullified and denied.
Yes.
This now let's get to this witnessing, the eternal witness. Is eternal witness, this is a very important word. Eternal witness. Does it belong to Prakriti or it belongs to Brahman? Where does it stay?
Anything which is seen, objectified or available is in the Prakriti. In the identification of Atman or Brahman, there is nothing. The only explanation or the example which the Shastra also talks about is, what is our state in our deep sleep? Is the state of pure awareness. But what happens is that identification of the individuality, and we evaluate the experience of deep sleep as a waker. We are giving it as a state of darkness or nothingness, etc. Actually speaking, it is neither darkness nor nothingness. It is the presence and being of only the unity or oneness, Ekameva Dvitiyam Brahma. When there is nothing to second one, can there be an experience? Can there be an awareness? Can there be a knowing? Can there be an expression or anything? No. That is exactly why, even though we talk about deep sleep from the waker's point of view, in the Upanishad, Mandukya especially, it says that Chaturtham Manyante, this has to go beyond the deep sleep also. Because deep sleep is a experience from the waker's point of view. Therefore, it has to transcend even that. That is why it is says Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Savigneyaha. So it has to be anything which you are saying, if it is the words and description or some indication, if it is coming, it is in the Prakriti.
That's clear, Bhagavad. So this eternal witness is also, objectification in a way. This knowing is a spoiler, because this knowing, as it imparted into anything objectified, right from the sensual, say, eye, seeing is an imparted behavior. So is a mind that has the, this katrutva, know or known knowledge behavior. Even the eternal witness having this knowing and sort of analyze, without uninvolved knowing is also imparted behavior. That very, nature of knowing, that the Sachidananda, the knowing is the most can be talked about yet, but this is, playing spoiler on anything that it come across with, because this is that, that illumination, you call it at the best, is what is imparting that very, very connection. There is a connection because of this illumination. That is calling, really, really, all this, even Bandha Moksha, everything is due to that.
Yes.
But yeah, you can't deny the connection. At the same time, you can't, accept the connection. So this is where it stood.
See, that is why in the previous verse, Krishna, when he said that, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya, then only you can say Sukham Vashi Aste. That sannyasa or renunciation, that actions are there, activities are there, there is a relationship between the action, activity and myself. That idea, when it is there, then you are not doing the sannyasa of the karmani. And you can't be in a state of happiness. That pure state of happiness can happen only when all karmas are renounced. This is what is happening when all karmas are renounced in the state of deep sleep. Are we not the happiest in our deep sleep state? Even the happiness cannot be known because there is no knower there. But we wake up and say, I had a good sleep. The waker remembers that happiness or the absence of inflictions of the karmas and the vasanas.
Yes, Madhuri. This knowing is producing the binding. That's a culprit. Right,
But
Madhuri?
it is the nature of the Atman, knowing. But don't identify, that is what we are saying. The Upanishad is saying, or the Gita is saying, knowing is the nature of your true self. There is nothing separate from you to know. And if it is appearing, it is, understand it as a swabhava, not as your activity, your knowing. There is no activity of knowing. Kartrutva, I am the knower of the swabhava or the prakriti. No, not even that. That is the total renunciation of actions, what is being told.
Viduji, this Swabhava, there is no boundary to Swabhava. Because this boundary, like Guna Karma, Guna, that Swabhava of Prakriti and Swabhava of Brahman. Then where do we draw the line? Because the Swabhava get imparted as knowing
Swabhava,
that.
so Swabhava is not of the Brahman. Swabhava is the nature of when we do not know Brahman, only the Swabhava will be there. That's what we have to understand. Why are you accepting that the Swabhava and the Prakriti is there? That means you are accepting the Avidya is there and you are under the clutch of Avidya.
Prabhuji, that Sachidananda. What is Sachidananda then?
Sachidananda is pure consciousness, existence.
That's
There
a
is
Swabhava
nothing
Brahman.
other than that in it. There is no Swabhava in it.
No, there is no Swabhava which is, manifested. As it manifests, it becomes Swabhava.
That manifestation, why are you saying that the manifestation is real?
It is not real.
If it is not real, it is something like a dream. Why should it affect? That means the waking becomes in effect unreal for you not to worry about anything that's happening in the waking.
No, this is perfect, Nandaji. Just that is nothing to worry about, nothing to,
Yes.
think about. Yet, that is recognized.
True.
So then, this is what I'm calling Swabhava. Either at a, Gunatraya or Sachidananda. Both are recognized.
See, that what you're saying is right, Venkat. When you want to talk about the human experience, you bring in Swabhava. But while bringing in the human experience as Swabhava, never forget that you are Sachidananda Atma. But you are not the human being.
Okay, that's a Viveka. That's a clear Viveka. Okay.
Yes.
I think that clarifies, Manjuji. I think this is good way.
Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you very much.
Prakash, we'll meet on Tuesday.
Okay, Bindu. So, yeah, today is the last day for this week because the new schedule is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 a.m. IST. So we will continue the next week, Tuesday, at 6:30 a.m. IST. As Bindoji has reminded us, listening to the replays and coming will assist a lot in the Sravana Manana process. And as always, thank you everyone for coming. And a special thank you to Bindoji for offering this deep manana. Over to you, Bindoji, to close the room.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Venkat, Atmishya, and all of you there who have been listening. We'll continue on Tuesday, the next verse, 15th verse. Hari Om. Namaste.